Welcome again. I'm at the home of the Shah family, the illustrious Shah family of Kenya. In my opinion, maybe I'm biased, but I think these are the people who are the movers and shakers of not just Kenya, but of Africa. I've known the Shah family for over 20 years, and today it's an honor to have Dr. Manoj Shah. I mean, just a recent autobiography of him, one in a million. I think it's a little bit underestimated, maybe one in a trillion, with all the things that I've heard that you have done and you aspire to do. So Manoj, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you join us today. But tell us a little bit about the Manoj Shah that you want people to know about, which they cannot read about anywhere.
And talking briefly about one in a million is my biography over the last 6 decades plus of my life journey. It actually demonstrates what I've accomplished as a young boy, as a young man fitting into my father's shoes and starting the business empire at a very young age, and together with my 2 brothers growing to what it is today. The biography also talks about my accomplishments together with my 2 brothers in keeping our large extended family together and being one of the model successful business family units that we have in our lovely country of Kenya. At the same time, I'm also very proud that in my biography, we have captured all the corporate social responsibility programs, my affiliation with Lions Clubs and other non-governmental organizations that are truly captured in one in a million. However, the book does not capture that I've just recently become a grandfather.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That is the great accomplishment.
And that also not one, but of twins.
God bless. God bless.
So I'm very affectionate about my family unit. Personally, I love both my daughters exceptionally well. And one of the things that the book does not capture well is that behind the scenes, I've been mentoring my younger daughter to take over from me as succession planning as I plan to retire in the coming years.
I don't think a person like you can ever retire. I think life begins at 60, Manoj.
Of course.
And from what I hear and what I have read a little bit in the one in a million is, you have major ambitious plans going into the next phase of your life. Speak to us a little bit about where Manoj wants to be in the next year, 2 years, 5 years, and 10 years.
Yes. So basically, I do have certain ambitious plans for my future. In terms of my business, I want to really support my business into being one of the most strongest family businesses that we have in Kenya and in parts of Africa. So that is my ambition, and I'm working with the other family brothers to ensure that we succeed in that avenue. At the same time, my ambitious plan is to carry out succession planning for our family by mentoring the 4th generation who are now ready to come into the family business.
So you're 4th generation in business?
Yes. The 3rd generation has already started entering, and the 4th generation is now coming up. So I've been very successful, and for the next couple of years, my role in the extended family is to mentor, prepare, and teach the next generation of how to integrate them, not only into the family business, but also keeping our large family intact. On the social front, my ambition is, of course, to grow myself with the Lions Clubs International, and God willing, one day I'm aspiring to be the international president of Lions Clubs International.
I hope with the very next year.
Let's hope so in the near future, whenever the opportunity arises.
You know, a lot of people don't know what the Lions Club is and what it does, especially in the USA. In the common circles, of course, there are a few people who are members. I was proud as a young boy to be a Cub, so I understand the Lions very well. But please, we want to hear, you were dedicated to Lions at a very young age.
Yes.
What motivated you, and what is the Lions Club?
In fact, I'm very proud to be a member of the Lions Clubs International, and I've been a Lion member for over 38 years. And Lions Clubs International is the largest service club organization in the world represented in more than 210 countries
Bigger than Rotary?
around the world, bigger than Rotary, and bigger than the United Nations.
Yes, the United Nations, 193 members.
So we are bigger, we are more represented in more countries than the United Nations. We have almost 1.5 million members spread over all these 210 countries. And honestly speaking, I became a member of the Lions Clubs by accident, as I was invited by my best friend to a Lions function one evening, not knowing what I was getting into 38 years ago. And that very night, I was invited to be a Lion without knowing what I was getting into. I raised my hand and I said, I do. And I got married to Lions Clubs International. But I never regret, because Lions Clubs International has been one of those best platforms that I will treasure ever for my life. It's given me the necessary leadership skills. It's given me a network of friends all over the world. It's given me an opportunity to serve the less fortunate in one and many ways.
What are the kinds of programs that the Lions engages in?
So basically, Lions at the moment are focused on 5 key areas. Our biggest area is feeding the hungry, because knowing the continent of Africa, hunger is one of the biggest challenges that we have on this continent. The second biggest program that we have with Lions Clubs International is environment. Not only planting of trees and making our nation and countries greener, but also in other spheres like plastic, advocacy for plastic, greenhouses, solar, and many other aspects where the Lions are now involved integrally in many environmental programs. In fact, we have the biggest green United Nations Environment Program here in Kenya for the entire world. So we work with them very, very closely.
Okay.
In addition to that, one of the other programs that we have recently taken up is diabetes, where we are now in the forefront, because what we have learned is diabetes is the 4th largest killer disease, non-communicable disease, where a lot of people are being impacted and affected. And that is an area of concern where the Lions have now worked diligently in the field of diabetes. And of course, we have just taken up pediatric cancer. Because
you're the head of a hospital, right?
Yes, I run 2 hospitals, yes. So children's cancer is a big issue in Africa. In fact, there are very limited facilities to help children who suffer with cancer. And this is an area where we feel the Lions could contribute and work with other non-governmental partners, and to see how we can also contribute in that field. Personally, I've been very passionate about literacy.
Yeah.
For the last 20 years, I've been promoting literacy in Africa, especially as you go out of the big cities into the rural areas, not only in my home country of Kenya, but also in many parts of Africa. Because what I've seen is that as you go outside the big cities, into the rural areas, into the villages, there are so many children out there who are hungry to read and to promote themselves and educate themselves. But of course, the resources are lacking. Many of these children, especially in rural areas and in the villages, are even studying under trees, as we have a big shortage of schools in this country and also in many other parts of Africa. And what we have been doing over the last almost 2 decades is that we have come up with a very simple 3-step approach, whereby the first step is, of course, to talk to the children and encourage them to educate themselves and become literate by giving them, of course, the necessary tools. At the same time, we are also teaching the teachers, because the teachers spend a lot of time with children in order to train them as to how effectively to use the materials to promote literacy amongst children. And the third step, which is the most important step, as the parents of many of these children are uneducated, it is extremely important that we communicate to them, we encourage them, and we also tell them that as your child comes home, please make sure he carries a book from the library and reads at home, and encourage him or her to do that.
Do you find any resistance to that?
Initially, yes, but now, no, they've accepted it very, very well. We have created more than 300 libraries in rural schools, and more than 300,000 children have so far benefited from our library program.
This is wonderful, because I think the most important gift you can give is education.
Education.
One of the things that we are also working on to promote through the Lions and through the Connect Universe that we are affiliated, it's a tripartite structure that we've created, is
Yes.
on education from 0 to 5. Because there are some international well-known educators who have researched that the most critical years and formative years are 0 to 5.
Yes.
We'd love to see how we can work with you in promoting that curriculum and have schools around Africa adopt it, so that we start targeting the future leadership of Africa early on.
And maybe just to share a story on 0 to 5 with you.
Yeah.
In my earlier years, we used to work with refugees from Sudan and Somalia in the biggest refugee camps in Dadaab and in many other parts. We used to go out there, provide them with relief food. We used to provide them with all the material, blankets and everything else that was required. And I've actually visited the refugee camps many, many times. But there was this one instance when I visited the refugee camp, and there was a big influx of Somali refugees that had come in with children under the age of 5. As we went through the refugee camp, we had a big hall with mothers and children sitting there and waiting to be helped. And of course, they'd been deprived of nourishment, and they were literally almost on the deathbed. Because many of them had not eaten for more than 10 days or 2 weeks trekking to the refugee camp. But what was interesting is that many of them had children under the age of 5. And as I saw these children on the ground, most of them, of course, were deprived of malnutrition. But what was very, very surprising is that most of them looked brain dead.
Oh.
They were not responding. They were not crying.
No sparkle in their eyes.
There was no sparkle in their eyes. And I met a social worker in the camp. And I asked the social worker, is there anything that we can do to get these children back onto their feet from 0 to 5? She says, yes. There is one thing that you as Lions can bring to the refugee camp that can actually put these children back onto their feet. She says what that is educational toys, a football, a book or a crayon, something to stimulate their mind. She says in a refugee camp, we are not allowed to do that as the United Nations, because our priority is, formula milk, is all other medications and everything else, but toys is not on the budget.
I remember many years ago I was here, your brother Manish told me about a program here of the slum children.
Yes.
And this Dutch lady who came and transformed them, that from the criminals, these people were transformed into becoming responsible, educated children. Talk a little bit about that program.
Yes. So basically, it's a beautiful program, especially for slum children. Because what happens with slum children is most of them, because of poverty, go into bad habits. They go into alcohol, they go into drugs, they go into negative behavior, and their attitude also becomes bad. So what happened is that we partnered with this Dutch lady and the Lions Clubs International, and we came up with a program, the Lions Quest program, which is Skills for Adolescents. And basically a very simple program where we went into the slums, and the first thing we did is to feed the children and give them at least 1 meal a day, because if a child's stomach is full, he automatically starts thinking positively. And the second thing is we started educating them and providing them tools as to how to avoid drugs, how to avoid bad habits, how not to change their attitude to negative attitude in whatever they do in their lives. And we ran
So is this
program,
Lions Club doing
Lions
this?
Club together with this lady, and it was a complete integrated
The program is, I forget what the program is called?
Lions Quest program.
Okay. No, the name of this initiative with this Dutch lady,
Yes.
it has a specific name. It escapes my attention.
Okay, I'll just get it in a moment as we keep on talking.
Yeah.
So basically the program impacted on more than 10,000 slum children and the success rate of this program was almost 70%.
I remember I visited, they had some classrooms with computers and
Yes.
They became the most successful football club.
Players,
Yeah.
that's right.
That was quite a remarkable thing.
True.
But, changing gears is, with Lions Club, what do you hope to aspire to accomplish in the next year, or 2 years, or 5 years? Where do you see the Lions go?
So basically the Lions have now, of course, because of the COVID pandemic,
Yeah.
there is very limited work.
Did they
that
do
we-
things in the COVID pandemic?
Yes, the Lions were the most active in the COVID
What-
pandemic.
how? What did they do?
In fact, the Lions in Kenya were in the forefront as the COVID broke out in 2020 in March. The Lions were in the forefront in working with hospitals, in helping patients, and of course, providing the PPEs, masks, gloves, and where the Lions recently have played a very critical role, not only in Kenya, but also in India and around the world, when we had the oxygen crisis.
Oh, yeah.
In the third pandemic, where we had hundreds of people dying. And it was the Lions who stepped in, brought in automated machines from China, put up oxygen
Those
plants
ventilators
and ventilators, and started helping COVID patients
I
who
see.
had breathing difficulties.
Are they involved in the vaccination efforts?
So the Lions,
Across Africa?
Yes. In fact, we in Kenya have started our own Lions COVID vaccination center. So far, we have managed to vaccinate over 400,000 patients. And our next phase is, instead of the patients coming to us because of the low intake, we have started an outreach program where we are going to go into villages, into rural areas with our outreach team and go and get them
So
vaccinated.
did you have to use your influence to get the vaccines, or were they easily, freely available?
Initially, there was a big difficulty in getting vaccines because there was a worldwide shortage, but God has been kind. The government is now providing us with enough vaccines because they are now readily available.
Are people willing and ready to be vaccinated?
The honest answer is no.
Why?
At the moment in Kenya, a lot of people have that myth. If we talk about pregnant women, they say they don't want to be vaccinated because it might impact upon the newborn. And then, of course, there is a cultural taboo among certain interfaiths that we have in this country, where it is, not
Misinformation.
right. Misinformation.
So how is Lions involved, or your efforts involved, in promoting the correct messaging of why people need to be vaccinated?
So we have a very strong advocacy program. At the moment, it is run on social media, but we have also started taking it on the vernacular radio stations, where we are educating the people around and the communities that they must be vaccinated and it is safe to be vaccinated. So we have a very strong advocacy program that we have been running for the last 8 months.
Is the materials online or in hard copies?
So we started off with the online advocacy, but we realized that in rural areas, in the slums, a lot of people don't have access to that. So we started using the local vernacular stations.
Okay.
Everybody listens to the radio.
What has been the role of the parochial schools, the religious institutions?
So
are they helpful in this?
Unfortunately, again, honestly speaking, not too much. Because even many of the different churches are advocating
Not
their
to be
people
vaccinated.
in churches not to be vaccinated.
So this is, so that's a hurdle.
That's a big hurdle that we have in this country.
How can that be overcome?
We started the vaccination program early this year, and we have not even managed to vaccinate 9 million Kenyans out of 52 million.
My God.
And
My
we have
God.
20 million vaccines in stock. The capacity is there, but
How do you change people's minds?
so that is a big challenge, but we are trying.
So is the efforts of the Kingsway Foundation or the Lions?
So basically,
Altogether?
this is a joint effort between the Kingsway Foundation and the Lions Vaccination Center, together with the Ministry of Health. So what we are doing is, again, a three-pronged approach, where number one is advocacy, where we need to go out and educate people. Number two, because we know that a lot of people do not want to spend a small amount of money to come to the vaccination center. Of course, I mean, wherever there is money involved, people are reluctant to pay that. We decided that let's have an outreach program. We go out to them. So we have started our outreach program to go out and reach those people and get them vaccinated.
Are you involved with the United Nations in those efforts, or is it independent?
No, this is independent.
Do you think the UN has a role to play in this?
For sure, definitely. Definitely.
Do you plan to engage them?
Yes, we are in discussions with the UN, and in fact we have very good relations with the UN agency here in Nairobi, because the third biggest headquarters outside New York
Yes.
is in the city of Nairobi.
UNEP and Habitat
Yes,
for
that's right. The
headquarters.
world headquarters of UNEP are
Yeah.
based here.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. No, I want to shift gear to that. Why I brought this in was you mentioned your passion about the Sustainable Development Goals. I have found the United Nations most successful and unparalleled in its efforts is its convening power and getting countries to agree on a minimum basis.
Yes.
Take the Millennium Development Goals and now the Sustainable Development Goals. But the problem I feel, I want your opinion, is that the language of these goals is so sophisticated that a common person does not know what to do. How do you translate those sophisticated goals or aspirations into practical, demonstrable things that people can do simply in their own communities? Have you launched some efforts for that?
In fact, I totally agree with you. And when we look at that goal, those goals that have been set by the United Nations, yes, they are simple to understand for you and for me.
Yeah.
But when we roll them out to the common person,
Yeah.
it is very, very difficult. So what we have done here is that we've broken the goals down into actionable steps that we can put into immediate action. So let's
something.
talk about
Yeah.
women, gender equality.
Yeah.
So what we've done about gender equality is a huge subject matter. But in terms of gender equality, how can we break that down? Maybe just as an example, into a goal of looking at young girls
Yeah.
as teenagers. And how do we promote gender equality amongst them as they finish their school and they now get into university or get into the job market? What is the advocacy and the action plan that is required for that?
I wonder whether we can explore a partnership with the Lions International and maybe the YPO network here, because that's where the resources are.
Yes.
Let's just be frank.
Yes, for sure.
You need resources for that. Into developing concrete plans of, a cookie cutter policy will not do it.
True.
You need specific things for different communities.
Yes.
So can some program be launched that, okay, we have worked out what this community needs, we know what the resources are, and then start to implement those programs and highlight, make a template of that model, put it up on the platform that we have for other people to replicate.
You are absolutely right. If we are ever to succeed with the Sustainable Development Goals by the year 2030,
Yeah.
the action has to be taken now.
Yeah.
And what you're saying is that we should get more and more people
Absolutely.
to collaborate.
Make it a movement.
Yeah.
The Lions Club is a global movement.
For sure.
The YPO is a global movement.
movement.
Natural to partner and see what we can be doing. I mean, look here. I'm in Kenya now in December and it's raining.
Yes.
And people don't understand there's climate issues.
Why?
Why? Misinformation.
True.
Right? What can we do to bridge that gap and have people be knowledgeable and taking action?
And I think if we can all put our resources together, bring on many more partners, groups like the YPO and
Yeah.
others together, I'm 100% sure we can succeed in many of the goals.
No, that's wonderful. I look forward to exploring what we can do, especially the Kingsway Foundation,
Sure.
the Lions Club, the YPO network, and with the influence that you people have, you can influence any head of state across Africa, or in the world also.
Thank you.
I've
Very
seen
kind
that.
of you.
No, I've seen that in action. I've seen over the years the influence that you people have. Let's do something to help the most vulnerable, the most poor, the most needy.
True.
And into having them understand, okay, in my community, if I take this bottle and put this for recycling, this is what will help with that. Or if there's access to clean water, access to education, building those partnerships, that's what is going to bring the change.
And leading by example.
Yeah.
Like I run one of the
Like you
hospitals.
here,
Yes.
documented so well
True.
in the 1 in a million.
True. And talking about climate change, talking about environment, leading by example is another exemplary way of showing the world what we should do and how it can be done. We have just recently, our hospital has now been acclaimed as the first Go Green hospital in the entire East African region.
Bravo.
And it's taken us 1 year to get there, but we put everything into place. And today I'm so proud that we managed to get about one hospital as a green hospital certified by the UN.
And certainly this could be replicated all across.
And this is what we are doing now, using this to mobilize and
Yeah.
advocate other hospitals to follow the same.
You know, I'm sure that you've seen that oftentimes things look so complicated, but when you do it and you say, "Oh, was it that simple?"
True.
So I hope that you can make a template of this, replicate this all across Africa and indeed the world. Be the leaders.
Yes, sure. In fact, we have already started documenting some of this stuff, like if anybody wants a template of a Go Green hospital or any of the other projects that we have done, the diabetes project, the gender sensitivity, we already have a success model in place. All we need to do is to plug and play into any other institution that wants to follow.
You know, on our platform, please share these resources
Sure.
because we have a global outreach. Let people see what's happening. Maybe they can adopt and replicate that. We don't have to recreate the wheel,
True.
all over again.
True.
Go make resources. Go cut down on your expenses and put those resources directly to help those in need.
Absolutely.
Let's try and develop that. And the other part which I want to explore with you is the whole concept of Lions as service, right?
Yes.
What can we do to have people launch service programs across the world
Yes.
through the Lions networks?
Yes.
I give you an example. I was in Norway. I was a guest of the Crown Prince and they were doing a conversation. And I was very fascinated to learn. And I ask you this question. How many programs do you think an average Norwegian adopts, social-minded programs, to help the poor, the vulnerable, or some charitable programs? How many do you think an average Norwegian adopts?
So to be very honest, I've been a part and parcel of Lions Aid Norway.
So you know.
I've been working with them for 15 years. Our Lions there, Svein Burstein, my colleague, past international director, and myself, we have been very, very active. We have invested into almost 5 service programs in Uganda.
Yeah.
I've traveled with him several times over the last few years, where the Lions Aid Norway has helped us build eye hospitals, look after children's homes. In fact, I had the opportunity of visiting a refugee camp in Lebanon, in Beirut.
Okay. Yeah.
In Lebanon, together with Lions Aid Norway, where they've set up one of the most heart-touching projects to help the refugees.
Yeah, actually,
around
that
Syria and all those areas. I've been a part and parcel of
that refugee camp exists since 1948.
1948, but Lions Aid Norway,
Yeah.
they have been supporting
Interesting.
that. And as we speak now, I just received an email which I'll share with you a bit later on, a beautiful Christmas card from one of a lovely young girl, 6 years old, who has been a beneficiary of Lions Aid Norway, to Lions Aid Norway of thanking them.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So
wonderful.
this is an exemplary program
You know,
of what Norway
they gave
is
me
doing.
a statistic that on average, every Norwegian adopts 5 different programs to
Yes.
support in their life.
Yes.
I mean, so it is inbred into their DNA that we must serve, we must give. So I would hope that we can launch programs to share these stories of people by, again, telling them simply what they can be doing. For instance, can they reach out to one person a month to understand what are the core beliefs, the practices, sensitivities, or reach out to one person who's in need and say, I'm here to help you, selflessly, without any expectation,
True.
selflessly.
So what happens is, Bawa, is the situation in Africa is different from Europe and the United States, the Western world. So what happens in countries like Kenya or many parts of Africa? Take, for example, Sudan, Somalia, the most ravaged countries. So in many of these countries, 70% of the population have nots.
That's right.
Only 30% are the haves.
Yeah.
In Kenya, we are very fortunate. We have 60% haves and 40% have nots.
Really?
Yes.
Interesting.
40% have nots. We have the 3 of the largest slums in the city of Nairobi, which houses 4 million people. I'm just giving you an example.
Yeah.
So when we try and inculcate the issue of giving to others who are less fortunate than ours, in the Western world, it's much more easier than in many parts of Africa.
Yeah. I think the West does not understand or sometimes underestimates that even a few dollars there
makes a big
huge difference. And so we would need to see if we can be a conduit to channel those kind of commitments and resources to help the most vulnerable.
That's true.
So we would love to see if we can partner and explore on that.
For sure. In fact, as I mentioned to you, Lions Aid Norway is an exemplary example of how partnerships and bringing people together works in serving the needy and the less fortunate. So if we can bring more partners on board and get more people to collaborate and get them on the same thinking level, we can impact upon thousands of people.
You would have accomplished SDG 17.
True, for sure.
Partnerships would all of strategic partnerships.
Strategic partnerships.
I think that I totally endorse 200% what you say, because no matter how powerful you think you are, the only way to succeed is having the right partners.
The right partners.
So let's develop that partnership going forward, and let's demonstrate to the world responsible leadership.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bawa, such a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you so much, and I wish you the best. I hope everybody can benefit from this book that you have so articulately put together, and I certainly will share it with many.
Thank you, and it's my pleasure to present to you my biography.
So Manoj, life begins now.
For sure.
Continue.
Enjoy it.
And God bless. I love the Shah family and the structure.
Thank you.